Thank you for agreeing to chat with me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Pleased to be here.
Well, and we're pleased to have you.
Thank you.
You're our first guest.
Wow.
Believe it or not, in the current format we're trying. So
I feel honoured.
you are going to set a high standard, I'm sure.
Oh, I don't know about that.
But you've had a very interesting life, to say the least. Could you just give people that don't know you, or maybe only know a little bit about you, just a quick summary of that life so far?
Well, probably the greatest challenge in my life has been the last 3 or 4 years. But prior to that, I grew up here in Ipswich, attended school here, and then upon leaving high school, I went and became a police officer with the Queensland Police Service. Did that for about 11 years before running for council, Ipswich City Council, back in 2000, and was elected. And I was a councillor up until, for the central area of Ipswich, up until 2017, when I was elected mayor of the city of Ipswich at a by-election after the mayor resigned. And then I guess about 6 to 8 months later, that's when everything went south.
No, that was a hard time. But before we get to that, what was your motivation for entering politics?
Well, it's interesting. In many respects, it was the same reason why I became a police officer. I've always had, well, as long as I can remember, this pull, this urge to commit myself to others, to the community, and do things that I know would benefit the community. And that's where the idea of policing came from, and that was from an early age.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until about 5 to 7 years into my career with the police that I started to feel this pull towards local government.
And what would you say you're most proud of during your time in local government?
Oh, I'm proud of many things.
Yeah.
But one of the things I'm certainly proud of is the fact that I've always been approachable, always been out there willing to help people. I've always had this view that to be a leader, you've got to be one of the ones to set an example, and that often means rolling up your own sleeves and doing the job that needs to be done. They're some of the things I felt very proud of personally, but it doesn't really matter how many things you build, how many parks you improve, or roads and footpaths you put in place. It's probably just the thing that I've always been proud of is this, more importantly, has been my honesty and integrity during that entire time, and always being there when people have needed me. Well,
people that speak about you and who knew you, who certainly attest to that. And
it was something that my parents instilled in me from a very young age, was that that need to commit myself to others, do a good deed every day, always be there when somebody needs a hand, and always put your honesty and integrity out there to be tested.
So it would have come as a bit of a shock, I imagine, when everything started happening?
Tom, to be honest, it was like a trap door opening, and
really,
I just fell like down an endless pit, and it was a dark time, very dark for me.
So it was that sudden, like a trap door?
Yeah, it
within moments you were the mayor of Ipswich, and the next minute.
Well, I had an inkling. I mean, for those who are unaware, I was charged with offences of fraud, which were rubbish, and I was able to prove they were rubbish. But and whilst I had an inkling that the Triple C had targeted me, I always felt confident that my honesty and integrity would be the shining light that would save me.
Yes.
Like I said, it was definitely like a trapdoor. That moment that I received advice I was about to be arrested and charged. And as a former police officer, that I guess brought with it an enormous amount of shame as well, to be arrested.
Yes.
And charged, taken to a watch house and fingerprinted. It was
Would be surreal.
yeah, you're right. To a degree, I sort of felt like I was outside myself,
Yes.
looking at what was happening to me, and it was it really affected me deeply, and you know, even talking about it now, I just it brings a lump to my throat. Yeah, that was May of 2018, so that's 4 years ago. I guess in many respects, what this event, if you like to call it that, did was my life stopped pretty much at that time, in the point that it had been go, go, go. My job was very rarely would I work any less than 80 hours a week. And all of a sudden it was just like a sudden stop, an ability to look around and see what I was missing. I always thought that I was a Christian. I always felt that I was Christian. I always acted as a Christian, but I never actually truly grasped what a Christian was.
Yeah.
And the surrender, the full surrender to Jesus, and more importantly, that ability to have that one-on-one relationship with Jesus. And it was at that point that I realised what was actually missing in my life was I wasn't making time for Christ. I thought I was a Christian, but I wasn't being a true Christian, in that I'd not fully surrendered and relied upon Christ in my life. And if there is one good thing to come out of what happened to me, it is that. And as a result of that, my life has had a completely different focus. That's not to say that at that point in time things got better.
No.
They didn't. It was still a test. It was still a trial. And ultimately that trial went on for nearly 4 years. And Tom, I've got to say to you, there were times when, and I have said it publicly and I say it again, I actually truly believe that I'm lucky that I'm here.
Yeah.
Because there were moments when I could have done something, I could have committed self-harm, if you like, or something worse. And it was because of my ability to lay my troubles at Christ's feet and put my entire trust in him that probably saved me, together with my children, my girls, my family, who pulled me out of those, out of the pit from time to time when I needed to.
Yeah. In those moments when you went to God with what you're going through, what was it about your faith that got you through?
Oh, I think particularly I had a moment in prayer after doing my daily devotions, which I sort of call my road to Damascus moment. It was my Jesus moment, the time when I felt him.
Yeah.
And
what was that like?
Oh, well, to me it was like I actually felt like I was levitating. I was in prayer and I heard these series of voices. It was the one voice, but it was like 1,000 voices at the same time. But it was the one voice, if you understand where I'm coming from.
With your ears, or was it sort of?
I felt it in my head, and at that very moment, it was like a download of all those positive verses of the diary, in particular the one in Jeremiah, that I have a plan for you, a plan for good, and it was like I was receiving all those good verses all at once with the one voice, but all in one brief 5-7 second period. And I actually felt at that time that I was almost levitated off my seat.
Wow.
It was a very emotional moment. So whenever I felt down, at any time after that, I brought my mind back to that moment and just knew that he had it under control. Everything was under control. And that gave me confidence.
What would you say to people going through a hard time? From what you've been through, probably as hard a time as anyone could go through.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone?
Oh, and I will talk to the camera on this. Look, I'd say no matter where you're at in your life, if you ever have one of those moments or you're in a season of hurt, pain, suffering, whatever it might be that you're struggling with, just know that when you're at your weakest, Jesus, God, is at his strongest. And you can always go to them with your troubles. You can lay them at Christ's feet, and he will represent us. He will take on that battle for us. He is our shelter, our refuge in times of trouble, in times of crisis. So I would say to anyone who is struggling, again, it might be the toughest season you've ever been in, just feel confidence that you can take your troubles to Jesus and he will help you. Have that confidence to do that.
Thanks, Andrew, for speaking with me today.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you for allowing me to share.
I'm sure good things are ahead. How do you feel about the future?
Oh, I'm excited. I don't rightly know what my future holds at this point in time, but I trust God has continued to have a plan for good for me.
Not the end of the story yet.
It's not the end of the story yet, no.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks.
When you've got nowhere else to turn, God is there. I want to thank Andrew for sharing so honestly. If you've got an encouragement or a question for Andrew, you can pass that on to him through us. More than happy to do that. Do you know anyone who might appreciate this podcast? Please share the link with them.